Good morning. It's very exciting to be here in the beautiful city of Montreal. Actually, I'm going to use a quote from Keith Richards, the drummer of the Rolling Stones, when he played in Halifax a few years back. He said, "It's good to be here. It's good to be anywhere." And that's a little bit how I'm feeling from COVID. It's good to be anywhere, but wonderful to be in Montreal, such a beautiful city. My name is Janet, and up on the screen here, I'm with my wonderful daughter, Lisa, who's alive and well, 31 years old, living a typical life of a 31-year-old back in Sydney, Nova Scotia. But that almost wasn't the story that I would be telling you here today. When the call came from the police officer, I was ecstatic. We had thought our 20-year-old daughter, Lisa, had been lost in the woods for the last 3 hours. So we were thinking the call was that she was lost and she got found. This is what the police officer told us when he called. "We found your daughter. She's alive. There has been a very serious suicide attempt of a lethal means." How can that be? How can our loving and talented 20-year-old daughter want to die? Just a heads up on this talk this morning, I will be discussing suicide. There isn't anything graphic, but I want to give you a little heads up that the conversation will be concerning suicide. We were a family living what I would call a typical family life. Lisa was the second oldest of 4 children. It was a busy house, but it was a pretty happy house. Around the time Lisa turned 14, her mood started to change. Our happy-go-lucky child, suddenly her mood changed. She stayed more time in her room. She didn't want to go out with her friends like she had before. She didn't like school anymore, which she had previously loved. At first, we thought, this might be the teenage years. But when the mood didn't pass, we took her to a doctor, and what followed was 6 years of seeing doctors, psychiatrists, social workers. Lisa was diagnosed with depression. While at the same time all that was going on, Lisa lived a pretty typical life of a teenager. She had lots of friends, she had boyfriends, some good, some not so good, but they were there. She had extracurricular activities, she competed in dance festivals, she graduated from high school. After the years she graduated from high school, she went to community college, which was located in our community. We were relieved. We didn't want her going away. We knew that she had struggled and we wanted to keep her close at home. The next year, she begged us to go away. She said, "Mom and Dad, I'm doing great. I want to be like my friends. I want my independence. I want to go away to school and be as independent as I can be." So we agreed. The weekend that Lisa returned home from community college was when it happened. It was a cold, frosty April 23rd, 2011. She went to the woods, and she did it. What she told us following was, "I was unconscious for a couple of hours, and when I came to, it was dark, it was cold. I saw my cell phone in the dark. I called 911. I cried. I said I wanted to live." This is what Lisa told us in the days and the years and the months that followed. I didn't want to die. I just wanted the pain to stop. I couldn't figure out any other way to make this horrific pain stop. When I had the thought that I should tell someone, I also had the thought that no one can help, there is no help, and I only could come up with one solution. When I went away to school, these thoughts got darker and more negative. You're a failure. You don't deserve to live. Everyone would be better off without you. No one likes you. She said these thoughts had become part of her normal life. They had been around from the time she was 14. Her illness convinced her there was no other way out. How could that be? How could our loving and talented daughter believe that we would be better off without her? We would never be the same. Our family would have been devastated. Her friends would have been devastated. How does this happen? We ponder the same question when we hear of suicide. How does this happen? We think of Winona Ryder, Robin Williams, Kate Spade, our friend's uncle, someone from our old high school, the beautiful, youthful faces in the morning's obituary with requests to the donations to the suicide crisis line. How does this happen? It's incomprehensible. How does this happen? In the months and years that followed, Lisa taught us what the road to recovery looks like. She experienced many things the mental health system has to offer: hospitalization on a mental health unit, adult day programming, counselors, therapists. Besides everything the system had to offer, she did everything she could herself. She took her medications, she kept her appointments. What she did tell us was the biggest factor in her recovery was when she went to an adult day program. For the first time in her life, she could see and hear people like her who had suffered in similar ways. Prior to that, she said, I just believed I was a freak. I was a weirdo. There wasn't anybody like me. There's a part of me that looks back on that experience and thinks, that's a chapter in our lives. I'm so grateful every day for the outcome. But let's close the book. Life is good. All 4 children are launched. Retirement is in view. I have 2 beautiful grandchildren. But yet, every day of my life, I ponder that question. How does this happen? How does this happen under the nose of a loving family, under the nose of a mental health system that's trying to help? How does that happen? I have researched and read and probed on a daily basis. Even as a nurse who had witnessed many of life's complexities, I was dumbfounded. On the topic of suicide, there is a large volume of well-done research. There is many loving and kind and caring health professionals that are helping people. Treatments are developing all the time with increasing success rates. We have learned so much from suicide attempt survivors, but yet it keeps happening. I know people that I talk to and probably here today want me to blame the system. That's not our family story. I can't say anything about the system. It wasn't resources. Lisa was very much in touch with the system. In fact, had just spent 6 years in the system and never once told anyone that she had suicidal thoughts. And then it hit me. This is a very complicated problem. The answer lies in all the pieces working together. Yes, we need resources. Yes, we need health professionals. Yes, we need money spent on the system. But the biggest factor that needs to happen is we need to talk about the stigma surrounding mental health and mental illness. The biggest factor in Lisa not coming forward for help, was that she doesn't see anybody like her. She doesn't hear anybody talk about suicide. She doesn't hear anybody talk about struggling days. She doesn't see anyone like her. And that was the biggest factor in her not stepping forward for help. So guess what? There's something we all can do about that. There's something we all can do about that. In this room today, there are such powerful people in terms of suicide prevention. There's many researchers, there's people working with the mental health system, there's people with lived experience. This is an incredibly powerful room, and I consider this an honor to be here and speaking with you. But what can we do? We're just one person. I'm just one person. Lisa's just one person. Maybe we all can use our platform, and maybe it's not as hard as we think. When someone dies by suicide, the first conversation always turns to, why didn't they reach out? Why didn't they reach out? We just keep asking that question. What I did learn after this experience is reaching out is not as easy as you think. You have an illness that might be telling you negative thoughts. There is no help. Nobody can help you. There's something we can do about that. We can reach in. We all have the potential to help this suicide crisis. How do we reach in? It might be as simple as maybe just picking up a quart of milk for your neighbor who has anxiety, who doesn't like grocery shopping. Maybe your friend's children need to be picked up from soccer. Reaching in might not have to be as hard as we think. And in the workplace, I read a statistic that said when people are off from work with stress or with mental health issues or with mental illness, the biggest factor to them returning to their workplace is not their illness, not their dark thoughts, not their ability to concentrate. It is how they feel they are going to be judged by their coworkers and by their managers. There's something we can do about that. If you know your coworker's been off with mental health issues, when they come back to work, say, "It's good to see you back." If you need any help with a new spreadsheet, phone system, or something that happens when you are off, I would be glad to help you. And I know everyone's thinking we don't want to intrude in someone else's business, and we don't know if they've been off with a mental health issue. Guess what? If someone's been off with their gallbladder and you say, "It's good to see you back," hey, they're going to be happy about that as well. It's win-win. Lots have been written about social media. Some of it's good. Sometimes social media is good. It's a place where people can see other people connecting. They can get education. But sometimes social media can be very negative. You have a power. If you see things on social media that you know are inappropriate for the promotion of positive mental health, please don't like it. don't retweet it, don't comment. Sometimes we see a post that might say, people in prisons, they're spending all our money and that's why our parents can't go to a nursing home. That's not true. Please, please don't share negative information out there. And it might be like Justin Timberlake says, maybe the biggest thing we can say is say nothing at all. Please just ignore it, and sometimes silence does get the message across to other people, perpetuating a stereotype. Lastly, my biggest ask today is for those of you who have lived experience. I would consider what you have is a superpower. Tell your story. When others are listening, when you tell your story, someone struggling is hearing you, and when you say, there were hard times and then they got better and things are better for me now, you are giving people hope. You are giving people hope that their place is going to get better, and hope saves lives. We know hope saves lives. So that's what I've learned. That's what I've learned in the 11 years that was a very dark day in my life. So I'm not saying we don't need other things. We need it all. We need everything this system has to offer. We need resources, we need doctors, we need research, but we need people telling their stories, and we need stigma to be eradicated. The theme of this conference is Together for Life. I think it's brilliant. I think it's a brilliant title. That's how we solve the suicide crisis, together. One person can't do it. One discipline can't do it. It's together. We all have that power. We all have a power to solve and help this suicide crisis and put an end to this devastating thing that's happening in our society. There is something every one of us can do. Lisa and I say, thank you for helping. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.